Nice, rousing beginning to our morning. My name is Amy Collins. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the Commissioned Lay Minister and one of today's service leaders here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Cleveland. We acknowledge that we're gathering on the original lands of the Erie and of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabeg peoples, also known as the Three Fires Council. We recognize the need to learn more about these complex and sometimes painful histories, to care for the land we inhabit, and to show respect to the diverse peoples and cultures who preceded us, as well as those who gather here now. I bid you welcome, whether you're here in person or joining us virtually live or at a later date, and I suspect that there are a lot of those folks today. We are a pluralist and covenantal community. We're humanist, pagan, Buddhist, Jewish, Christian, atheist, agnostic, and some of us resist or reject all of those labels. We define family in many and diverse ways, by birth and by choice, and many of us claim this community as an extended family of sorts. We represent a continuum of gender and sexuality. We're neurodiverse and neurotypical. We have visible and invisible financial, racial, and cultural differences, health, and ability realities. As a covenantal community, we coexist with this range of beliefs and identities because we agree to respect and care for one another and make room for one another. We are also imperfect in our sincere and committed efforts to make room for all of these differences. Our covenant is something we often read aloud as our chalice lighting. It's aspirational and intentional and worthy of reminding ourselves of each week. If you are just discovering us and want to learn more or hear from us, fill out one of the guest cards in the pew rack and put it in the offering plate later in the service. If you're with us online, you can find us. You can visit our website at uucleveland.org. Please take a moment now to silence any of your electronic devices or put them in worship mode. Welcome to our precious, beloved, aspirational, flawed, and magnificent community. Nick McNally is going to light our chalice while you join me in reading our covenant on the yellow card in your pew racks. There he goes. He says he needs no introduction, but in case you don't know Nick, he is one of our youth who participates in our RE, and he's a very accomplished musician, so you may have seen him around. Please join me. We cultivate trust with one another by celebrating differences, honoring boundaries, and offering compassion and care. We listen to each other deeply with curiosity and wonder. We speak for ourselves without need to defend ourselves or persuade each other. We create safe and brave space for healthy conflict, creativity, and fun. We reconcile through forgiving and making amends when we hurt one another.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Randy Partain. My pronouns are they, them, and I am delighted to be with you in worship today, whether you are here in person or joining us online. As we prepare for worship today, I invite you to hear these words from Maureen Kaloran. Blessed is this ground on which we stand. Holy is this place. Holy are the places of memory, the places which have formed us, where we store the icons of success and shattered dreams and gather threads and pieces of what we would become. Holy are the places of memory. Holy are the places of dream, the places over the rainbow, where all people are sheltered and all people are fed, where colors are the source of celebration and youth and age come to the table as one. Holy are the places of dream. Holy are the places of change and pain, the places of our struggle, where the rivers of our lives run white and fast, and we hold on, and grow. Holy are the places of change and pain. Holy are the places of connection, the places where we risk ourselves, where hands, touch souls, touch minds, and in awareness still we change our lives. Holy are the places of connection. Holy are the places of becoming, the places of clear vision where life and world are intertwined, and we can see forever in this moment and give thanks. Holy are the places of becoming. Blessed is the ground on which we stand. Holy and whole making is this place. In just a moment, we are going to sing a song of wholeness. There's a river flowing in my soul. You probably do not need the book for this. But if you do, the number is in your order of service. As we sing, I'll just invite you to come forward and place a stone in the water for any joys or concerns that you might be carrying with you today. If you're joining us online, I invite you to share any joys or concerns that you're carrying with you that you want the congregation to know about in the chat. And we'll sing a bit, and Fern will play a bit until our joys and concerns have been acknowledged and gathered here in the bowl. Before we sing, though, let's take just a moment to welcome one another into this space. If you see a face you don't recognize, please take a special moment to let their being here be sacred this morning. invite you into a spirit of reflection or prayer. Spirit of love and life that connects us to one another and to the world in ways that we do not always know how to hold. May this community be the container, the bowl, for all of the celebrations and the sorrows that we bring with us today, that we might be whole beings connected to other whole beings. In our gathering today, there are changes in people's lives, sometimes celebratory and sometimes unwanted. We hold those changes. There are medical diagnoses and the recovery from medical challenges. We lift all of those up together. Today we also mourn the passing of April Likert, a member of this community who died last Sunday evening. We will miss her presence with us and hope to continue carrying on her legacy. We pray for safe travels for fathers who are returning late tonight, and care for trans youth who find existing in this world of ours so much more challenging than it needs to be, more frightening, stressful. Maybe we cannot know what that is like, but we can hold their experience in care and trust and hope that we can do better. For all of these things and for the things that are unnamed, we aspire for this community to be a safe and brave container, so that in sharing our sorrows with one another, that they might be lessened, and that in sharing our joys, they might be magnified. Amen, and blessed be.
Good morning. My name is Jenni Papp. I am the Director of Lifespan Faith Development for this congregation, and my pronouns are she and they. Everyone, hopefully, has gotten a pipe cleaner. If you don't have one, please raise your hand. We want to make sure that you get one. Oh, wonderful. What a good job, ushers. Find two brightly colored ones. So hold up your pipe cleaner. Up your pipe cleaner. Many of them are still pretty straight, nice and straight and smooth, unformed. Some of them, I see, have already started to develop a little bit of a different shape. So I would like to invite you now to begin to get to know your pipe cleaner. You know, start to make changes to your pipe cleaner. You can curve it. You can put some right angles into it. You might spiral it. Whatever you want to do, start to get to know it, fiddle around, whatever feels good or pleasing to you. All right, it's starting to develop its own unique shape. Hold them up again. Yeah, see, we're starting to see some different things. They're gaining their own identities, if you will, maybe. It's created by you, influenced by you. Maybe now reflect on some of your experiences this week. Did you experience an act of kindness this week? Maybe as the actor or the acted upon? How might that be reflected in some shape? how did you feel about that you put in your pipe cleaner? Act of kindness. Perhaps you might have experienced a little frustration this week. If you experienced a little frustration this week, how could that be reflected in your pipe cleaner? Maybe the experience of frustration, maybe the outcome afterwards, the journey through it. How can you reflect that in your pipe cleaner? Did you have a time this week that you had to change course, make an adaptation to something that you had originally planned on doing? I had 3 adults in my house and 2 working cars. That was an adaptation. And one of the moments of kindness came through from that as well, and frustration. So there you have it. It's all here. All right. So now take a look at it again. I want you to turn to someone close to you and trade. Just trade. Don't lose track of it. You'll get it back. Don't worry. I know it's yours. Trade. So neighbor, I want you to take a look at this, and I want you to make a change to that pipe cleaner. Make a change. Yeah, just do something that changes its shape. Now pass it back. All right, now observe it. I want you to observe the change that has occurred in your pipe cleaner. Feel it. Look at it. Do you like it? You might like it, you might not. Run your fingers over that for a second. See how it feels. Okay. If you want to keep that change, and you might, that's fine. If you would prefer not to, take it out. Reform it in a way that you would prefer that your pipe cleaner be. You may attempt to put it back the way it was before you passed it off, if you can. But you can adjust it. So I really want you now to notice this impact of your fiddling. Have you made a shape or an angle at one point that then you decided you didn't want and you tried to remove it? Did it leave a mark? Maybe a little kink in the stem? When you put a right angle in and decided you wanted a spiral instead, you got a spiral, but it might be have a little kink in it. If you were to try to remove the impact of every, and I'm not saying you should, but if you were to try to remove the impact of every twist and turn that you have done in the last few minutes, you're going to have something different than I had you hold up at the very beginning. There's an impact. You can try to straighten it out. Try. But there's some things on there because of what you experienced, what you did, what your neighbor did, and how you recovered from your neighbor's actions or how you experienced your neighbor's actions. Glance around at your neighbor's pipe cleaners now. None of them are exactly alike. At their core, they are still the same pipe cleaner you started with. There's still a wire in there covered with fuzzy stuff, right? But we started with, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 some stems that were pretty much identical. Their colors were different, but pretty much identical. And now we have that same number in our pipe cleaner community, and every single one is different. All unique creations. If we chose to, they are very adept at connecting to one another. They're built for it. And we could do that. And then we would have a different, you would have your thing, but when you connected it to the other one, it would be different yet again. And we do have a pipe cleaner community that has never existed before and will never exist again after we all leave this space, a unique pipe cleaner community. We made a mark, a change in each one. These are yours to continue to hold on to or to give to your cat for the rest of the service and beyond.
I was pleased to learn that I would be doing the ask for today's offering recipient, the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. I'm a registered dietitian, and 4 months into my new job working for WIC, a supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children. Many of the clients I serve experience food insecurity, though many of the moms work 1 or more jobs. I often refer families to local food pantries to supplement their access to food. These food pantries are supplied in large part by the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. The food bank and its partners provide services to over 424,000 people. They work with partner agencies and programs in the fight against hunger in Ashland, Ashtabula, Cuyahoga, Geauga, Lake, and Richland counties. The food bank provides food and non-food items to more than 1,000 program partners agencies. These programs include pantries, on-site meal providers, shelters, and other nonprofit organizations, including children's after-school and summer programs, senior programs, and rehabilitation programs. In their service territory, 1 in 7 people is food insecure, meaning that they may not know where their next meal will come from. And 1 in 4 children in the service area live in poverty across the area. Cleveland's child poverty rate has been consistently among the highest of the large U.S. cities. $1 can provide 3 meals for a family. If you are in a position to help with any amount, please place your offering, cash or check, made payable to UUCC, in the collection plate as it's passed. You may also contribute via Cash App with $UUCC 44122. That's in your order of service if you have one. Please use the memo line to indicate today's date and our plate recipient, Cleveland Food Bank. If you or someone you know are in need of food assistance, the food bank has a helpline to assist folks with signing up for SNAP benefits and to connect them with the most geographically appropriate food pantry. The statistics suggest that there are some among us who could benefit from these services. So please give generously within your means. For our reading, you have a part. It's in your order of service. The line, "This is loving and being loved." Can you handle it? Yes. All right, so I'll give you a gesture when it's your turn. Litany for becoming. To become is a lifelong process. Nothing is constant, not even the self. We evolve in the midst of narratives meant only for some and ways of being made narrow by fear and power. We must then have the courage to listen to the truth of our own lives, to the wisdom that comes from within, responding without resistance or need to control, but with welcome and curiosity. This is what ensures our becoming is an unfolding of our truest self. This lifelong labor cannot be carried out alone. It requires help from friends and lovers, family, and creaturely companions who bear witness to what makes us come alive, and to say to us, listen, look, feel, pay attention to that. This is loving and being loved. Telling the stories, sharing the memories, giving thanks for the relationships, understandings, and experiences past that have shaped us to this day. This is loving and being loved. Celebrating new beginnings that excite, holding risks together, leaning into unknowns with the promises of support and companionship. This is loving and being loved. Listening to the future, calling uniquely to each of us in the midst of all of life's noise, helping one another find our place in the shared labor of collective life, supporting each other in what is the world's ache is asking from us. This is loving and being loved. To say for the first time, this is who I am, this is the truth of my body, this is what I know about myself, this is my name, and this is where my path is leading me, and to have it heard, have it received, have it affirmed, and then to say it again and again as we change and as the world changes, and to have each proclamation greeted with an open-armed embrace. This is loving and being loved. There is no me without you. We shape one another. The sacred that birthed us weaves our lives together so that we can only find ourselves through shared becoming. For my journey and all its winding ways, for yours, for all the saints who labored for what is, all the kin whose lives made ours possible, for all those yet to come, for whom living our truths today will mean breaking possibilities open for them tomorrow. We pause, we give thanks, we acknowledge. This is loving and being loved.
Somebody asked me yesterday what I love about being in ministry, and it occurs to me that one of the things that I love about at least being in multi-generational community is that this idea of becoming is something that we never outgrow. We get to hear in this same community an 8-year-old or an 80-year-old or a 38-year-old say something like, "I never thought about it like this," or "My whole life I've always thought this way." And we have these opportunities and these moments where we get to reform, reshape something about our lives to become more like the people that we really aspire to be. And it happens throughout our whole lives, and we get to see it in different people's lives when we're in community with one another. It's an amazing thing. So we've been talking about this, what Parker Palmer calls a tragic gap between current reality and an aspirational vision of living in a full embodiment of our values. And today we're going to talk about a little bit about how we got to current reality, our first formation, so that we might examine some of the pieces about who we are. Formation is the process of being formed. I know you're not supposed to use a word to define itself, so formation is the process of becoming who you are. Formation is the process of shaping our values and our behavior and our beliefs. And formation is a very human process. I would say it's a very mammalian process because mammals are social creatures. We get formed as part of our being. And our first formation began at birth. Some people might say before then, but at least it was begun at birth and was complete mostly by the time we left home. We were formed by families and schools and churches and friends and clubs and authority figures and our culture, our TV and books and things that we took in from all sorts of places. Being formed means that we learned who we are and how we had to show up in the world in order to be safe and loved. And those two don't always feel like the same thing. Our formation was when we learned who we are and how we have to show up in the world in order to be safe and loved. So what comes to your mind when you think about your first formation? Maybe pipe cleaners, because you've had recent experience with forming pipe cleaners. Maybe you remember when you were younger forming Play-Doh or clay in some way and rolling it out until some kind of shape or vision emerged for you and you shaped it into something. Or maybe you think about a potter forming clay into some piece of art or something functional. Maybe formation to you, you think about a baker kneading bread, feeling with their fingers in the dough until they weave it into something that they can bake and be nourishing for people. Maybe you think about folding origami into some shape. A lot of images of formation might come to mind. A lot of those, though, there's a vision that we might have. If we're going to fold a piece of paper or shape a pipe cleaner or mold clay, we might have an idea in mind first that we want to form something into. And our first formation, I don't think was really like that. Maybe there were people who had intentions for us and they said, I am going to teach this person how to be. But I think a lot of it just happens accidentally. We pick up things that people say. We learn lessons that people don't really intend for us to learn. We see something in a magazine or on TV and we think, that's how I have to be. So, whatever your point of reference, what I'll say about forming things is that in my experience, a first formation is usually not perfect. The first time I try to fold a piece of paper into origami or shape clay into a thing, it has dents in places that I don't intend. It's not quite symmetrical. It's not the way that I might envision it in my mind. My first attempt probably needs a little bit of modification. Some of our first attempts might even be unrecognizable. So can we imagine that our first formation as people might have been similar? Can you imagine that in our first formations there were some imperfections? Last Sunday we talked about self-awareness, developing some sense of questioning ourselves, some idea of discovering things about ourselves that we didn't know before. And by using that tool of self-discovery, we can explore those things that shaped us in our formative years, and we can find empowerment in seeing which things serve us and which things don't. We might see some self-defeating tendencies that have developed over time and how we might be different. We want to acknowledge those things that serve us well. We want to acknowledge those things that we learned early on that help us be the embodiment of our values. And we also want to acknowledge that there are some things that might get in the way of that. Some things that might not allow us to experience shalom, wholeness, a fullness of life with purpose and meaning. So our first formation, however that looked, it included constructive things and destructive things. The people who were key influences in our first formation, or for those of you being formed right now in your first formation, the people who are key influences are doing the best that they can. I believe that about all of the people that formed me. They did the best that they could. This is not about blaming people for not forming us perfectly. This is just about acknowledging that people are imperfect. And the people who formed us were formed by other people who were imperfect, and they were formed by other people who were imperfect. So as a result, we got formed in possibly some unhelpful ways. So here are a few, just for me personally, here are a few of the helpful and unhelpful ways that I was formed. In my first formation, I learned to be honest. I learned that trust is difficult to build and easy to damage. That's one thing that I think is helpful. I learned to do my best. Even if I wasn't as successful at something as other people, I could take satisfaction with putting in my best effort. That's something that I learned in my first formation. And I learned to practice doing the things that mattered so that I could improve. I started taking formal piano lessons in the 3rd grade, and I was not great at it at that point. But eventually I got scholarships in college for music because I practiced over time, and that's something that I was able to develop. I learned the value of that in my first formation. I learned that you work hard and make sacrifices for the people that you care about. I learned about faith and faithfulness by consistent participation in church communities. I learned about humility and helpfulness in my first formation. I was taught to help people who were challenged by things that I was good at, and not to make fun of people who struggled with things that came easily to me. And I learned how to celebrate. There were multiple times when my mom would do something special to acknowledge little successes or accomplishments. I learned that in my first formation. But in my first formation, I also learned some less helpful things. I learned to be a people pleaser and to feel shame whenever I didn't live up to other people's expectations. I learned that when people disappoint you, you cut them off. You just distance from them and you sever ties. That's what you do when people disappoint you. I learned to be a success junkie because when you succeed at something, you get recognition and praise, and that feels good. So let's have more of that. I learned that in my first formation. I also learned in my first formation how to say the right things to look good or be acceptable, even if they weren't the things that I actually believed. And I learned that people in authority can behave however they want. They are the ones who get to be angry, the only ones who get to be angry. That's something that I learned in my first formation, a less helpful thing. And I also learned that working hard is more important than relationships. That's something I got taught in my first formation. I didn't learn in my first formation how to resolve conflict in healthy ways. I didn't learn in my first formation how to manage money well or how to manage stress and anxiety well. I didn't learn that in my first formation. I didn't learn how to make wise choices that served my own well-being and wholeness. And I didn't learn how to be in meaningful, authentic relationship. I had to learn those things later. That was not part of my first formation. So in your order of service, there are going to be some reflection questions. There are, not going to be, they're there right now. There are some reflection questions, and I hope that you'll take some time this week to just reflect on what are some helpful things. Maybe you can list 4 or 5 really positive things that you learned in your first formation, things that you're happy that you get to carry with you, that help you live into a sense of wholeness. And maybe you can reflect on that throughout the week with your family even. But another big thing that we learned in our first formation was how to protect ourselves. In our first formation, one of the key things that we learned, our brain said this is survival. We have to learn to keep ourselves safe. And we learned to keep ourselves safe in ways that were appropriate for children, because that's when we're talking about, right? Our first formation was a lot of when our childhood was going on. So we learned how to stay out of trouble. We learned what to do for ourselves when we were afraid. We learned ways of coping when we were yelled at or when those that we loved were angry at us. We learned who people expected us to be, people who were close to us and society at large. We learned all of that stuff. And we built in some habits because we don't want to have to think about that stuff all the time. We would go mad thinking about all of those things every day, nonstop. So we built in some habits. When I feel this way, this is how I act. When I need to be acceptable, this is how I act. When I need to make sure that I'm going to be lovable and cared for, this is how I do. We built in habits that became kind of an autopilot way of doing things that we don't have to think about. We just do it. For instance, last week I mentioned something about conflict. If our first formation taught us that every time we experience conflict, we're going to get hurt, then we might come to believe that conflict is bad in and of itself. and we should avoid that at all costs. So we become conflict avoiders. We don't think about it. We don't go into every morning saying, okay, here's how I'm going to avoid conflict today. We just automatically do it when the possibility comes up without thinking. It becomes our autopilot way of doing. We might not even like some things about our autopilot ways of being. We might hear ourselves say things like, well, this is just how I am. Or we distance a little bit and say, well, this is just how people are. Or, well, this is how I was brought up. So that's an indication that we're talking about our autopilot. But the way that we were formed is not who we are. The way that we were formed teaches us behaviors, ways of doing things, but they're habits. They're not who we are at the core of our being. They're not what make us worthy or not worthy. None of us is not worthy. Just to remind you, you all have worthiness. That's a thing that we say as Unitarian Universalists. Every person is inherently worthy, regardless of how you were formed. So our first formation was a series of experiences that resulted in us seeing ourselves and the world mostly through the eyes of a child, even though we're now adults. Research has revealed that most people hold on to the worldview and the mental models they have about reality from middle school. Whatever we believed about the world in middle school is what we tend, as human beings, to hold on to through the rest of our lives. So as adults, we often react in the self-protective ways that we learned when we were children. Our ways of reacting have become automatic, so we don't think about them. So our first formation is one thing that sometimes stands in the way of us experiencing shalom, wholeness. So I'll give you another personal example. Some of you have heard this before, but hopefully it'll still be valuable. One day when I was a little kid in school, I was struggling with an assignment, and I went to one of the adults in my life, one of the people that I trusted, and I asked for help. And they responded, "You're a smart kid, you figure it out." Which might have been true, and also, from that moment on, I believed that I was on my own. The meaning that I made from that experience was that I was certain that other people would not help me, especially if they have more power than I did. So the impact was that I didn't build deep connections with other people, and I only did the things that I was confident that I could do well all by myself. My first formation taught me to believe that I had to play small, because if I was doing something ambitious, I might need other people and they would not show up for me. So I couldn't take on things that would require me to rely on people. So I was determined that there was something unacceptable or unworthy about me if I couldn't figure something out for myself. That I was inherently flawed in some way if I couldn't be self-sufficient. And I became overly defensive when anybody questioned how smart or capable or talented I was. And I can say now that those beliefs were lies, but they didn't feel like it when I was being formed. They felt like just a lesson about how the world works. Believing those lies was robbing me of joy and wholeness in my life, though. It robbed me of the experience of being fully alive. So, I know from experience that we can learn to evaluate our first formation and deconstruct those parts that don't align with who we really want to be, that don't align with the life-affirming values that we hold. You'll notice a diagram on the front of your order of service. There's a kind of a circular thing there, and that is the process of deconstruction if you're a process-minded person. If you're not, just ignore that diagram. But what's on there is a process of becoming, like what we were talking about. We reflect, first of all, we have a reflective life. We reflect on our first formation, and then we discover through that reflection those things that formed us from our early childhood. We reflect long enough to bring those things to the light and into our awareness. And then we can evaluate different aspects of our first formation. Is this an ingredient that I like about myself that reflects who I want to be in the world, or not? And we can prune those things out of our lives that are not consistent with who we want to be, the things that don't align with our life-affirming values. if we recognize, when I show up like this, I am not the embodiment of liberating love. We can prune those things. It doesn't cause harm to us. It helps us live into ourselves better. And then we can declare for ourselves what we want to do instead, who we want to be, what integrity with our life-affirming values looks like. And then this circle should really be really, really big. We practice. Because it took us a long time to build up the habits that we have for our autopilot. Years and years, decades for some of us. So it's going to take some practice if we want to do things differently. So we, being gracious with ourselves, we practice living out who we declare we want to be. And then we keep practicing until it becomes a new habit for us. And you'll notice that the things in this diagram form a loop. I should go this way for you. They form a loop. It's an ongoing process. We're going to keep doing it throughout our lives. There's no finish line. There's no point in that little diagram that says, finished, complete, arrived. We keep doing this throughout our whole lives so that whether we're 8 or 38 or 88, we can keep saying, I discovered this new thing, and I think I want to do things differently in my life. And each step invites us and everything that we influence toward greater wholeness and well-being. This is important for us as individuals. It's also important for us as a community. We stepped into our families, or didn't step probably at first, but we arrived in our families with them fully formed. They already had a system before we got there. They already had a way of being and doing things that we learned from. And every workplace or congregation or organization that you step into is the same way. When you set foot in the doors of this congregation, there was a way of doing things. And you might have been formed by that way of doing things. You might have developed some habits of relating here that lead you toward greater wholeness or that get in the way of shalom. And the better we get at doing this practice for ourselves, the better we get at doing it with one another so that we can reflect and examine and say, is this habit that we have as a community contributing toward us living out our values really impeccably? Or is this getting in the way of us co-creating shalom with each other? Is this something that we need to prune? Or is this something that we need to be really intentional about so that we become the people that we say we want to be? A people who embody justice and equity and pluralism and interdependence and generosity and transformation. More to come on this. But there's a little homework for today to reflect for yourself about your first formation, and maybe you can carry that into some other spaces here about how we form one another in helpful ways and in ways that we may need to question and examine. All of that is a part of our becoming. And we're going to sing together a hymn about who we have become and who we represent and who we are connected to. We are, it's in the teal hymnal. It's hymn number 1051. I invite you to rise, embody our spirit as we sing together. buckle up. I've got a couple of announcements. All the announcements from last week are now in this week's, so we've got a little bit. First of all, I want to let you know, UU Justice Ohio, that is an organization that pulls together all of the UU congregations in the state for important work. It has been a little bit defunct for a while, and I know that has disappointed some of you, but they are being reinvigorated. They've got some new leadership, and they are re-emerging with monthly, hour-long virtual connections. That's where they're starting. And the first one is this afternoon at 3:30. The link to register is on our website if you want to attend that. And this month, it's about UUs and allies. It's about sharing what congregations have been doing in ongoing community demonstrations and strategies of working across denominations. But these are going to happen every month, so if you can't make today's, watch for August's opportunity to connect with UU Justice Ohio. I'm really excited that there's some new life being breathed into this organization. Also, there's a small group facilitator training coming up here this Saturday with Amy Collins and myself, and I think if you are in a small group right now facilitating that, you got an invitation, but if you want to be facilitating a small group, you are also welcome to attend. Please register with Amy so that we will know how many people to expect. Are you going to be in Fellowship Hall for a moment or two after the service today? Thank you so much. Also in the Fellowship Hall today, I think Ray Gonzalez is going to have some information about the Peace Walk that you saw in the newsletter. Cleveland Buddhist Temple is participating in that. Some other organizations are participating that we've partnered with before. And so if you want to be a part of that Peace Walk, then Ray Gonzalez will have information for you in the Fellowship Hall. There's also an article in the newsletter from Jenni Papp about opportunities in our religious exploration spaces for volunteers. This is an opportunity for you to be in relationship with some of the younger members of our community. That it takes a village to raise a child is not just an aphorism. These children belong to all of us, and they are our responsibility. And so I hope that you will take seriously this invitation. And if Jenni has sent you a specific invitation to you personally, don't take that lightly, because it means that Jenni has seen something in you that is going to be valuable and needed in our lifespan faith development spaces. And so please take that as an honor if Jenni reached out to you personally with an invitation. I think I'm not overstepping to say that. Jenni says no. Also, a thing that belongs to you, if you are a member of this congregation, is this building. This is your building. This is not a building that somebody else owns and that you come and hang out in. If you're a member of this congregation, this building belongs to you. And so our Future Facilities Task Force is very hopeful that you will fill out the survey about your priorities. If you have not seen the presentation from the architect yet, that presentation is available. Also, there's a link in the newsletter for that if you go looking in Thursday's newsletter. And then there's a survey to fill out. It should be pretty quick to fill it out, just with your priorities about what this building becomes in service of us and the people that we partner with in the larger community. And if you want to go to coffee hour today and connect your pipe cleaners to one another's pipe cleaners, then you certainly may do that. I encourage you to do that. If we make a pipe cleaner community in the Fellowship Hall, that would not at all be a terrible thing. But if you want to take your pipe cleaner home, then please do so. May we go forth with a willingness to reflect on those things that have formed us and the communities where we engage and connect. And may we be willing to lean in to those things that co-create greater wholeness in our lives and the world around us. And may we be willing to let go of those things that feel like really comfortable habits, but that lead us away from the true opportunities we have to create a world of greater peace and wholeness and well-being. Go with peace and courage.
That was just a teaser of things yet to come. But first we'll have to extinguish our chalice. And before we extinguish our chalice, one last bit of enticement. Randy mentioned the facilitator training. We also, if you're not really a facilitator mind, we do just have a small group forming that if you are not yet connected with one, it's a great opportunity for some food and fellowship, which is a popular draw for folks. There's a lunch bunch that will be meeting at local area restaurants the first Wednesday of each month, starting August 6th at 11:30. There will be information in the email blast that goes out, but you can also let me know if you're interested in that, and I can get you connected with that opportunity to be part of another small group. So, and now if you'll join me in our chalice extinguishing words while our friend Nick extinguishes the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.